Welcome back to Booze Bros and Cars, your favorite podcast about booze and cars, and we're your hosts. I'm Eric.
I'm Mike.
I'm Carmelo.
And I'm Nick.
All right, so one thing I actually did want to mention before we kind of kicked it off and started talking about our beers, this is actually our 10th uploaded episode that's going to be going live on Tuesday. So,
Look at us. Look at us.
Good benchmark here for us. So, with that being said, so moving on to, of course, one of our favorite topics is going to be beer. So, I have a couple of corporate ladder beers. Mike mentioned last week that he wanted to try one that he bought. It's probably been like a month and a half ago, and we've kind of been holding off on it, so we all kind of tried it together, which is our pistachio ice cream beer from Corporate Ladder. It's their Station 9. Really, really cool beer. It is green, as you guys can see. And I have another Corporate Ladder beer, which is,
as you guys can see,
it is a thick beer, yes. And I do have another Dessert Station, which is their Raspberry Swirl. If you guys saw last week's podcast, I mentioned that I have a couple of beers from Sebring, which Sebring was back in March. And if you guys hear us saying or mentioning Sebring, it's because majority of the time we're talking about the 12-hour race that is in Sebring, or that's in March at Sebring. So that beer is from March, so I got to drink that. But yeah, Mike, aside from the Corporate Ladder beer, what else are you drinking tonight?
So yeah, as Eric said, we're all trying this pistachio. I just want to make a point to everybody watching that I purposely poured this into a Hofbrau München glass, just because there's nothing that would piss off a world-renowned brewer like pouring a pistachio ice cream beer into his mug. But, so that's number one. Number two, I'm drinking Lawn Daddy from Tampa Bay Brewing Company.
Lawn Daddy.
This is a neo-traditional Pilsner. I think it's like 4.5%, 4.2% alcohol. I guess I can go into detail later after you guys talk about your beers, but I just went on a pretty cool trip with work. Took a limo bus up to Tampa Bay Brewing Company in Tampa for kind of a work getaway. So I'll talk about that a little bit later. But Carmelo, what are you drinking?
Wait, real quick first, Mike. So does that mean that when you're mowing your grass, you're gonna start calling yourself Lawn Daddy?
The Lawn Daddy. Also, I just want to I want to point that out too. So right there,
the big black can you got there.
That's you know it.
what
Booze Bros and Cars. This is our beer. Come on.
It is our beer.
BBC.
Sorry, go ahead, Carmelo.
All right, so obviously tonight we're for celebrating the 10th episode. We're all breaking in that pistachio sour from Corporate Ladder. Something else that I got to, I'm a big fan of mead. I've brought on one or two of the episodes prior. So the Garage East Meadery, they have a Rebug Musa, which is banana mead with peanut and natural flavors. This is something a little different. Something a good friend of mine, Jess, got for me. Jess and Anthony. So, here's to them and see how it goes.
That Rebug stuff, the different versions they make, are absolutely delicious. It's a shame.
Garage East is awesome.
Yeah. It sucks that they're not going to be around in about a year, a little less than a year.
We should probably make a trip up there because aren't they doing a collab with somebody and it's supposed to be really good?
Probably. They collab with a lot of the breweries up in Tampa too. Like they make a lot of
okay.
I'm trying to blank. Anyway, yeah.
I think it's with Corporate Ladder that they're doing a collab with, I think. I'm not 100% sure. I think I saw something about that. But anyways, go ahead, Nick.
All right. Let me just see. Somebody's messing with the lights and everything in here. Okay, go. So the backup beer that I'm not sure I'm going to get to is another Corporate Ladder. It is their Blue Chip New England IPA. With about 4 different hops in it. I may or may not get to that. Just kind of keep it on ice for right now. As a backup, depending on how quickly I drink the very thick pistachio. The other backup for the evening is a little bit of scotch and a fun new Mount Fuji glass. Eric got one as well. We kind of went a little group buy on them. So going to enjoy that tonight. Specifically, one of the Nick Offerman editions, 11-year age. This stuff is delicious. I've had this bottle for like 4 or 5 years and I haven't finished it yet. So looking forward to maybe polishing that off this evening while we sit here. So yeah,
Nice.
that's it for me.
Looks like you got one more pour after the one that you have in that glass.
Yeah, still.
All right, so briefly wanted to talk about the Formula One race that actually happened at the wee hours this morning. For those of you guys that follow us in or on social media, so Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or Threads, I believe is the other page. I was posting really early in the morning because I just had to see the race. I kind of I would have hated actually to open up Instagram and have the race spoiled for me, but I went ahead and I saw it early this morning, and of course, as usual, Max Verstappen actually did win the race. McLaren actually had a very, very good race this week. They had really, really good strategy the whole race, and then Lando Norris ended in P2, and then ironically enough, his co-driver Oscar Piastri ended up in P3, which is his first podium for Formula One in general, and I think it's actually his rookie season. So good on him, because he was actually finally able to join the Max Verstappen podcast. So apparently he hates podcasts, but I feel like he should check us out. He actually might change his mind on podcasts. But Carmelo, I know that you mentioned that you saw a little bit of the race. Yeah, for sure. I know that you mentioned that you saw a little bit of the race. The first like 15, 16 laps were actually pretty exciting. There was a lot of dogfights on track. You know,
really impressive driving.
Yeah, like right off, green light or
turn
5
one,
lights going off. I think there was 2 accidents.
Checo
one with Checo,
Hamilton.
Yeah, Checo going to Hamilton, and then there was I think it was Zhou hitting Albon, and Albon went airborne, which was crazy. No, actually, it wasn't Zhou. Zhou was behind there. Actually, I can't remember who it was that hit.
It was Valtteri, because Bottas had.
Okay, it was Bottas. Yeah. But
so.
Albon ended up going airborne. So yeah, that was pretty interesting. But Checo ended up actually retiring from the race, and then something really weird happened. I don't know if you saw this, Carmelo, but he retired from the race and then he rejoined the race to retire a second time. But the reason for that is because he got penalized for a 5-second penalty for hitting Kevin Magnussen, spinning him out. He dropped a bunch of positions, obviously, because he spun out. But he got penalized for that, and then they retired the car. So instead of him having to do the penalty next weekend, they're like, screw it, we're going to put him back on track. He's going to serve the 5-second penalty this race, and then we're just going to be good for next race. So very interesting. I don't think I've ever seen that before, but yeah, I don't know if you have. But anyways,
smart.
It's smart on Red Bull to do that with Checo. But
why start? Because it would be a 3 or 5 point or a 3 or 5 position reduction, right, from qualifying. So they would get dropped 3 to 5 spots for failing to serve that penalty. Even though which I disagree with the FIA on that, where if somebody gets, if they get a DNF and they have a 5-second penalty, let it die. Like, he's not finishing the race. He's not getting points. Checo's second in the standings. That's enough insult. But then when their strategists were like, hey, they're going to try to make us serve this, they're like, okay. He came out for a few laps and went back. But getting just to the beginning of the race, that race into turn 1, you saw both McLarens come around Max. Max didn't have a bad start; he just didn't have the best start, and you see both of them just like going in. Max goes wide towards Piastri, and Lando's like, "All right, I'll take it." And then Max does what Max does and put his foot down. But I was truly surprised. Like Oscar Piastri, you said it, his rookie season, his first podium. I think he's had 2 other top 5s. So, especially since the summer break, McLaren has come in strong. Seeing where they started, in Abu Dhabi this year, or, the first race in Saudi Arabia, from where they started to where they are now, they knew what was wrong. And, and then Oscar getting that podium just solidified he had a 1-year contract, which was due to expire at the end of the season, and he's now in contract till 2026. So good for him, good for McLaren. His driving style seems to fit Lando's. One of the critiques of Carlos Sainz and Daniel Ricciardo was, the McLarens are very oversteer, or I'm sorry, they're very nose heavy, so they understeer, and they understeer to a point that they oversteer, and that was Ricciardo's issue last season. So to see that, somebody new came in, as much as I'm a Danny Rick fan, somebody new came in and is able to adjust their driving style to the car is phenomenal. And to podium, I mean, when's the last time we've seen 2 McLarens on a podium? I honestly can't remember.
Probably since Lewis Hamilton's days with McLaren, which is quite a few years ago.
Lewis and Alonso, I mean, more than a decade. That was 2011, I believe. So it's been a long time.
Yeah.
And so no, it was a good race. Checo, I know Checo got a 5-second penalty early in the race for something to do with the safety car, disregarding the safety car, not slowing to the speed, which I know they were trying to fight, but.
Well, they gave it to him anyways, but it was actually before he entered the pit, because there was like a bunch of discussion through the race that they were thinking it was after he left the pit. It was actually before, and I guess he actually passed somebody while he was entering the pit instead of following the speed. So that's where the penalty came from.
Yeah, and I mean, if he was entering the pit, I missed the middle of a race. We had some stuff going on, and unfortunately missed a little bit of it. But that's one of those things where if you have to pass somebody to get into pit lane just because it's a little bit of a shorter drive, why penalize them if their intent wasn't to pass? It wasn't ill
FIA,
intent,
man.
but
the FIA has got these weird, funky rules. So
even going off last year, they were penalizing Lewis Hamilton for wearing earrings and jewelry while racing, like it's and they're permanent stuff. So like you said, the FIA does some weird things, but another win for Max. I think we all knew they just had a bad setup last week.
Yeah,
even all the haters knew that was a fluke, which I'm a big Carlos Sainz fan, and I'm happy for him, but at the same time it would have been interesting to see a team dominant for the entire season, especially we're at 23 races this year. That would have been insane. But I don't know if you guys saw there was a couple articles on just after the race last week that Christian Horner, the team principal, the head guy for Red Bull, went and started talking with Carlos Sainz, who was a AlphaTauri or the Red Bull junior team driver many years ago. I think it was 2015, 16. And, he said, if anybody could break our streak, we're happy it's you, because you're still a part of the Red Bull family, or you're still, family. So, no, it was a good week. So.
Yeah, no, for sure. It definitely was. Like I said, especially like the first 15, 16, or the first third of the race, it was pretty exciting. And I know that we actually talk a lot about Formula One. We actually do watch other and enjoy other forms of motorsports as well. I kind of did want to touch base on that because, we do mention Formula One often, specifically because it is Formula One season. Every other endurance race, or I'm sorry, every other motorsports, not just endurance racing, they kind of have like weird schedules, like where they do them, very like months separated and things like that, or weeks separated. Ooh, almost dropped my beer. That would have been a party foul. But
Party foul.
Yeah, but like me, for instance, you guys, I've talked about it before. Obviously, I'm a huge drifting fan, so I follow Formula D, every single round for both Pro Spec, which is their Pro Am series, and then of course their Pro 1 series, which is the professionals. Also, we kind of do watch a little bit of endurance racing here and there, obviously mostly for Sebring and things like that. Not too much drag racing. I don't actually follow like NHRA or things like that, but we like to do it every once in a while up in Bradenton. Of course, autocrossing, we do enjoy autocrossing here and there. We do like to go and kind of have like a friendly competition against each other. I know mostly it's been me and Carmelo going, years prior, just kind of competing against each other to see who can actually have the the fastest runs for that specific track layout, because we autocross with Gulf Coast autocrossers, and it's never the same layout every event. They always change it up to make it exciting, but we do that. So again, kind of did want to talk about other forms of motorsports that we do watch. So those are kind of the ones that, we watch aside from Formula One, of course. But Mike, what type of motorsports do you like to watch and kind of, enjoy doing?
Yeah, I mean, you said it. Like, honestly, I don't watch a whole lot of F1. I know you and Carmelo kind of talk about it a lot on here. I do mean to start watching a little bit more of it just to stay competitive with the conversation. But it's just not something I get around to. I mean, I know the same problem that several of us on this podcast have is that, we got a couple kids, and it's like it's hard to figure out what's going on. Whether it's nights away from work and weekends are busy doing events and stuff happening. But one of the things you did mention that I do enjoy watching every once in a while, and I have it in the last couple of years, and I want to get back into it, is rally and rallycross. It's a lot of fun. It's really cool watching different stages of rally to where they're flying through the countryside. And granted, we live in the U.S. There's not a lot of it here, unfortunately. A lot of it's in European countries. They get a lot of cool racing over there. So really, it's figuring out what avenue and what platform you can actually watch this stuff when it's televised. I think that's the most difficult part that a lot of people that are into motorsports in general have a hard time doing, is just figuring out where can I watch it. I want to watch it. Is it on, like you said, the F1 race? Is it on until 3 o'clock in the morning on like some weird channel? Is it available on TV? Do I gotta watch it recaps on YouTube the day after? So it's tough, but I will say you have gotten me more intrigued by drifting, because a couple years ago I had no desire whatsoever, Eric. You know that. It was just like, whatever, slidey boys, just sliding sideways around a track. But then you start looking a little more into it, and you start looking at like the intricacies and the competitive nature of it, and like how difficult it actually is. Like, it doesn't look like it's hard. You're just sliding a car around, but there's a lot that goes into it. So yeah. So I agree with all that. I do definitely want to start watching some more rally. I just think that's cool. Those guys have some big balls, driving as fast as they do right next to trees and mountain cliff edges and stuff. So yeah, it's not people, exactly. That's another. Honestly, that's another one that I used to watch a lot of, was the Baja 500 or 1000, which is just another badass competition series.
Dakar was badass too.
Yeah, Dakar. Yep.
Yeah.
I've just seen some stupid fast trucks. Yeah. But Carmelo, what about you? I mean, you probably agree with most of that.
Yeah, no, and I remember watching Speed Channel way back in the day. I don't know if you guys had Speed TV back in the 2000s. Like Sunday night between 7 and 10 was all WRC. And I would sit there and watch, Tommy Mäkinen, and that there was this like Ford Focus white with like red and blue stripe Focus that, would dominate. And that's kind of once Tommy Mäkinen and the Evo started slowing down, they took over, and just seeing that, seeing how close they'd get. And I mean, they'd be 1,000, let's say 1,000 kilometers, 1,500 kilometers up cliff's edge, and they're just full tilt, pedal to the floor. That, like you said, those are some of the bravest racing drivers.
100%.
Them. And I would say the motorcyclists that do the Isle of Man. Like those are like, in my mind, at the top.
For sure.
When it comes to racing, Eric, don't hate me. I'm not the biggest drifting fan. If it's on or nearby, I'll watch it. But it's not. I could never get into it, maybe because I couldn't do it. And then when I did do it, I'm like, oh, just like a big power slide. Like, cool. I definitely think it's like ice skating for cars. It requires a skill. The setup is very important. But no, I'm a big, obviously, ironically, I'm a big IMSA fan. Endurance racing, Le Mans. I mean, my son was born in 2016. And, one of my first memories with him was I had the IMSA app, or the WC app, and sitting in the hospital the weekend he was born, watching the 24-hour Le Mans, seeing that Toyota LMP1 car, like 3 or 4 minutes, basically the last lap, just failing at the start-finish line. And then, not winning it until the following year. But so I'm a big, rally. I got into rallycross a couple years ago. but then it died off. I don't know what happened. I think it was Global Rallycross. Like they had some issues. They went from having like 6 events to 12 events. Something I've really gotten into, and I'm going to give a shout out to the guys over at Gears and Gasoline, is grid life. You know, they do a lot of time attack, and they also do multi-car, races. And that's ideally what I'd prep my Mustang, or if I decide to get rid of this, the vehicle that'll replace it. I want to get into some, real time attack, real track days, and stop watching. I've watched for the past 34 years, give or take, so I'm ready to start, like, getting involved and doing. So, Nick, what about you, man?
Man, I agree with that last statement a lot. Now, I've got as we call it, chassis sitting in the garage since it doesn't have an engine or half a suspension that I eventually want to turn into that street and time attack type kind of machine. But, plus the Genesis and all. But yeah, so one of the things I take part in right now is autocross here and there when I can, being in the car business and working most weekends. At least Saturdays, I miss testing tunes, so it's kind of tough. Now I've done so with the most recent modifications to the G70, so really it's just get out there and balls to the wall on Sunday and run it. But so hopefully we get back into this fall. As a kid I was big in NASCAR and I raced quarter midgets, so I like to watch like the dirt sprint stuff. Most of that kind of faded for me. I could care less about NASCAR at this point. It got so diluted, I think, after Toyota got involved, and just my whole family stopped watching it, and I just didn't really care anymore. So for me, IMSA and endurance type stuff, whether it be the primary endurance stuff or the sports car challenges, things like that, since we're lucky enough to only be about an hour and a half away from one of the best tracks probably in the world, definitely in the country, if not in the world, for that, according to the drivers, and the harshness of the track and the challenge to it,
the bumps.
And I will admit, it feels like most stuff you guys watch on Saturdays, and I'm at the dealership every Saturday. So for me, it's tough to watch those. Like when I was younger, I was in high school, man, back on G4 when Formula D like first came out in the US, but it was all like Japanese drifting. And then all of a sudden it came to America, and they brought it to America, and they were doing that. So like I used to love that back then, man. I used to love following Reese Millen. Dude was awesome back in the day, man. He went from rally to drifting, and then when I joined Hyundai, when I got into the car business, he was like the Hyundai driver for so much of it, for their time attack, for their hill climb, for all that. So I'd love to start paying more attention to the drift aspect, and if I can pull off somehow plugging in F1. But I will admit I am not good at catching up on things after they've happened. If I can't watch it right then and there, the odds of me finding it, even if somebody sends me a link to YouTube and watching it later, it's slim to none. It's a fault that I know I have, but I find other things to do that aren't staring at a device. So sometimes it's taking a nap on my day off.
Yeah,
I don't squander those opportunities, but yeah, that's really it for me. So I have some. I'm a man child, but I have some growth into some of these divisions and learn a little bit more about these different classes and stuff. But yeah, really for me, it's gonna be autocross, endurance stuff, and hopefully in the near future get a better following on drifting.
Yeah, nice. Well, drifting is pretty exciting. It's like Mike said, he wasn't exactly the biggest fan of drifting, and I kept nagging him the most. I'm like, yo, like let's go to a drifting event. Let's go to a drifting event.
Yep.
And then finally he kind of caved in because U.S. Drift Circuits, which is kind of like a Pro-Am series for the state of Florida, and you can get your Formula D license. They had an event. So he's like, you know what, we can go to Sebring. So screw it, let's just go.
Honestly, what I appreciate about drifting the most is that as of right now, it is a very, very trendy motorsport, right? A lot of people follow it. A lot of people are doing it. The other thing that I love about it is the accessibility and like the grassroots style of it.
Yeah.
You can have a zip tie held together G37 and just sign up, pay $20-$30, go out and just rip on your car for hours. And like, that's cool. I mean, what other racing sanction or series can you try to get into that easily for that little amount of money? I mean, granted, you got to take into consideration tires and all that stuff and modifications, but like, it's a really easy thing to do. I remember when we went out the first time I went up to Sebring with Erick, there was like ton of 350Zs, ton of G37s. There was BMWs. There was, you had a bunch of LS powered things. There was a couple trucks that was awesome. And there was a lifted Miata with a Paco lift kit, like a factory 1.6 motor, just out there, just drifting around on a lift with like mud tires. It was fucking hilarious. It was hilarious. But the dude was having a good time. And like, he wasn't there just for time slips or anything. He was just throwing his car around. So I can appreciate it for that fact. So
yeah, and I think with drifting is probably the one motorsports that there's so many different types of drifting that you can do. And when I mean types of drifting, I mean like there's obviously grassroots drifting, and then there's entry level competition drifting, which is kind of like your local drift events that kind of do like very small pot, like winnings, for whoever comes out in the top 3 and things, up to high end. Like you have, it's not going on this year, but it was like last year. I'm kind of hoping that they come back, but clutch kickers, like it's a very high level of competition drifting, and even obviously Formula D is huge. It's probably like the highest level of competition drifting that you can get into. That requires a buku amount of money, which most of it's probably going to be coming from sponsorships. But it's cool because you have Orlando Speed World or OSW, and you have Freedom Factory that they're just like, hey, we're gonna have a just fun event day. Just I think you said $20-$30. I think it's more like 100-150 around there. But even then,
yeah, I might have been shooting a little low, but still,
yeah. But even then,
still low.
Yeah. But even then, that's for like 3 days worth of drifting. I mean, it's not bad. It's like $50 per day if you're drifting Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I mean, that's cheaper than an hour if you're lucky of time at Sebring through Haggerty or something like that.
Yeah, so for $400 or $500.
Well, actually, so you bring up a really good point, because even if we wanted to do like an open track day you have Chin track days, you have Haggerty, you have, I mentioned it before because this guy that I used to work with, he used to do it with this organization, which is the Porsche and BMW Owners Club. It's like over $1,000 for your first event. It's like maybe anywhere between, depending on, and of course, it just really all depends on your car setup, right? So you're looking at anywhere between $750 to like $1,500, because you're having to buy tires, you're having to do brake fluid changes, you're having to pay for the event, you're having to pay for an instructor to go for you for like your first day, because you're like, you need to learn track etiquette, so it's not very cost effective. It's like you kind of need to like save up and actually like just put some money into it if you actually want to do like one event. Obviously it becomes cheaper as you're doing it more and more, and at that point it's just reliability of your vehicle, and then just keeping up with the maintenance, and then just buying tires and obviously like the track time. But even then, it's still not cheap.
No, that's going to be the same. Not. I mean, that's going to be the same with drifting. Shin, last time I looked, I think it's like $425 plus another $75 for an instructor at Sebring. And then what was it, SCCA? There was another organization. It was either SCCA or the Porsche BMW Club. It was like $325 with an instructor. So it's not, I mean, comparable to what you were saying about drifting, that you can do it for $150. It's a little more expensive, but the wear and tear items, the car setup, the oil, the brake fluid, it's going to be the same with drifting. I mean,
oh yeah,
not many people are just going to go out there and just drift a car, rough. But I would say for about $700-800 for a weekend is what, or for a full track day is what it would cost to road course a car.
Yeah.
And we need to look into that.
$400 or $500.
We need to start doing some more homework on that so we can go up and have a fun day doing that.
Yeah, we just about the truck. I want to say Haggerty was one of the best bang for your bucks in terms of time on track, with classroom, with everything for the total amount. When I was looking into it, I want to say Haggerty was one of the best if you weren't part of the clubs. I think I can sneak into the Porsche aspect because my PCA membership. But some of the other ones, could be tough. And a lot of them are pretty open anyway to other brands. You just got to be an early sign up, I think, for some of their events. So it's definitely something, we need to look into the future, pick a day, an event that makes sense, and just plan it out, take the day off, whatever we need to do.
Yeah, I agree. That'd be fun.
Can I take the Explorer?
I don't know, man. That's gonna be tough to figure out if you're able to do that. I mean, the height of that thing is.
I want to reel in some guys on the back straight.
Yeah, I have no doubt. I mean, definitely Genesis. I mean, I obviously at this point would be driving my 200 horsepower Elantra. So
Yeah, the Genesis is ready to go. I mean,
yeah,
I could do brake fluid change and an oil change. Just go hit the track. So,
how many miles are on your Genesis now?
Since the wife was driving it for a few months, I don't know, 41,000 maybe.
Wow, I think it has more miles than my Elantra does, and I've had it for 6 years.
Well, I bought it because I got rid of a company car, so I had to drive it.
We definitely need to look into that though. That'd be a fun trip.
I agree.
Take a day.
Yeah, we talked about doing that before, and I feel like now more than ever, we definitely have to actually do that. And it'll be kind of
Street Heat coming up again, October 21st. I think I invited at least some of you guys to the event.
I got your invite. I got to look because I think I got something going on that day, but I'm going to try.
The news is you got a month to move the other thing out of the way. So, hopefully it doesn't get rained out. Hopefully, maybe Greg can go this time and I can actually get the Explorer out there on the track. So
nice.
Hopefully, yeah. I'm probably just going to end up taking my IS because since I'm taking the vet up to the Tail of the Dragon in November, I'm probably not going to abuse it too much. Considering the fact that...
Do you plan on getting a new clutch before Tail of the Dragon?
I was going to say, anyone watching, leave in the comments if you have a hookup on Corvette C6 clutches, because Eric's going to need one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's for sure. But no, I don't plan on changing the clutch because I'm planning on doing that one on my own. And it's going to be like 4 hours of just ripping apart at the rear end, dropping the subframe, dropping the transaxle or the rear transaxle, diff, torque tube, everything, swapping out the clutch, and in another 4 hours, you bolt everything right back up. So it's going to be a pain in the ass.
I was gonna say it's funny that you think that's only going to take 4 hours, but if it's 8,
yeah,
no, I mean like it's 4 hours to drop the rear end and the triangle. Yeah, you have to lower the whole subframe. So
that sounds like so much fun.
Yeah,
listen, there's no YouTube way to do it.
No, I'm not doing it the YouTube way. Hell no, I'm not doing it the YouTube way.
Listen, I think each of us, drifty boy. Each of us have at least one sawing device. I don't think it should take 4 hours. We'll figure it out. We'll just cut it all out.
I'm not sawing off my rear subframe because then I'm gonna have to buy a new one and then do everything that you
guys
didn't want to do.
No, it's fine. Or this is coming from the guy who wanted to cut into the rear trunk for his rear coilovers, right? You want to make holes in your trunk?
No, you're supposed to because you're like supposed to do like the top bolts, but I didn't realize that. The instructions said check and see if you can just remove the two top bolts first, and if you strip them, because a lot of guys you have to drill into it and then you have to bolt it. So luckily, I didn't have to.
You can't criticize Eric too much for wanting to do that because Mr. Mike over here tried to convince me for months to take a Sawzall to my old Miata and hack it into a go-kart.
Well,
listen. You did that.
Listen. You should have done that because it was a running 1.6 liter 5-speed. That thing ran rough.
The first one I should have just hacked it up.
You should have hacked it up. You paid $500 for that stupid thing, and instead you decided, you know what, I'm gonna 200. Yeah, even worse. So you should. But this guy decided, you know what I'm going to do? Okay. I'm going to gut the interior, and then I'm just going to pull the wiring harness apart. Immediately, like, come on.
Why did you pull the harness? Why, like on purpose?
Because he was
planning a car. Let's swap. Yeah, that was the whole plan.
Instead of you could have just cut half the car off, and that thing would have been a blast. And then you could have just taken it to a junkyard and left it there. Like, left it there.
It's a bit of a regret looking back on it, yes. But
man, that would have been so much fun.
Look. All I'm going to say is not everybody has the same plans to build cars the same way that you do, Mike. So I'm not into the whole exoskeleton thing. But you are obviously. Like, if you do it, I mean, I'll support you. And
here's the thing.
I'll help you build it, but I won't build it for myself. I'm just saying.
Like, to his part, I had
it was a $200 car.
And then less than 100 to get rid of misfire. So for under $300, it was a running me out. Good luck finding a running Miata for anywhere less than a few grand.
Yeah, you basically got it for free.
Just like snip, snip.
I messed up.
Yeah. I'm at least. I'm glad you acknowledge that now.
I admit it now.
I'm glad you did.
Chassis.
Now, granted, I'm not going to lie to you. That interior, everything needed to go from that thing anyway because it was disgusting. Oh, yeah, but once we got to that point, we should have just been like, well, time to start cutting.
Now I'm in the position where I could have been like, yep, let's do this, let's do that. Let's throw some nice race seats in it. We'll go cart it out because I can afford.
Dude, you could have had a full exo set by now.
I was broke as shit back then. I couldn't wrap my mind around what it could have been now. Again, seats, steering wheel, just quick disconnect hub, and custom body. And that thing would have been a 2-person go kart.
Like my Miata, I hate to say it, it's just too nice to do that too. Mm-hmm. Like it's too nice of a car. Like I can't justify it.
I couldn't have that.
Yeah, I just can't justify it.
Swap it. It's a plug-and-play harness now.
Yeah, but you're talking
power to weight will keep you happy. Turbo,
probably $8,000.
No,
by the time you're all said and done. Yeah,
dude, a good K, good quality K,
and that's the cheapest swap. LS swap's probably 15.
Subframe and all that stuff, intake, exhaust work, standalone, tune it.
That's like it's like $6,000 to $8,000 if you do all the work yourself. That's just parts.
Like my engine swap for the Porsche. Swap kit alone, AGs. The engine's cheap, thankfully, and thankfully that swap kit's wiring harness, ECU, everything, mounts, and then you're a handful of accessories. But when it's said and done, it's a 9-10K swap.
Yeah,
it's just not sure. And that's for an engine that costs $400 to have a junkyard running. So it's
it's the transmit, it's the cradle, it's the transmission, like the mounting plate, the all the like custom bell housing, all that. So it's not cheap, man. I remember, like, I feel like people used to do engine swaps for like a couple $100 and a couple 24 packs of beer. Now it's like, golly, so stupid.
Good old boys, some booze, and a welder.
Yeah.
And the ability to actually weld correctly.
So if you can if you can actually fabricate, like if you have all the things to make engine mounts and to make a engine cradle and bell housing modifications, like perfect, you can probably do it for cheap. But not a lot of people have that. I don't have that.
Well,
I've got a garage.
Have the knowledge plus
a
machine shop at their disposal. Like, let's be real.
Well, and that's where you pay the premium. I just didn't realize it was that expensive.
It's the same thing. You're not paying somebody necessarily for the work that they're doing. You're paying them for the education, experience, and the time it took to get that to do the job for you in an hour. So I get it.
They're making a completely custom fabrication job for you so that you could just bolt it on. So I get it. That's a lot of money. Because
Mike, like for you,
didn't have kids.
I know, dude. I'd be in a whole different place. But I love them. They're cute. Whatever. Hopefully they'll be rich and famous.
They make life worth it.
For sure.
But the Coyote swap for the Mustang, the SM95 that I have, I want to say in total it was like $7,500, and most of that's engine and training, or engine and transmission. Let's not get demonetized.
Really?
Because the K member is the same. Obviously, they strongly recommend upgrading the motor mounts, tranny mount, the transmission mount. The transmission will hold until it goes boom. So I would
usually how they work.
Yep. And then the drive shaft. That's the only real custom part. But Ford made it real simple through all the research I've done, and that's kind of the reason why I've held on to it. I'm like,
Mustang owners made it simple too, because so many of them have crashed them, and that there's plenty of engines and transmissions just sitting out there ready to go.
I wish that was true, and unfortunately, it's not. It's easier to find a F-150 5-liter than it is a Mustang 5-liter.
Yeah,
but then you have the problem of being auto versus manual, and
Speaking of crash Mustangs, I don't know if you guys want to talk about the first documented, what is it?
S650.
S650, yeah.
We can.
Erick can clip that.
Yeah.
No crap.
No crowd. I really don't know all the story, but I remember seeing the picture on Instagram, and Eric can clip that in there, and it's just like look like basically the rear passenger side quarter panel all the way around the back of the car was just trashed, just gone. Wow. I don't know if he lost control, went off the road, hit a tree or something, but yeah, they're already crashing them.
Yeah, I'm sure he did. He probably was somebody that just was leaving a car meet or just hang out with somebody and just swing it around and just slap the rear end to a pole or a tree or something. But yeah, the picture's kind of.
It's not that bad. The picture's not that bad. I'm actually looking at it right now. You want me to share the screen here? Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can share the screen real quick. It's not that bad. The damage to the vehicle's not as bad as I was expecting.
Yeah.
All right, let me know when you can see that. So it's not all this stuff. It's this one. Yeah, it's that one right. It's right there.
No, that gray one's the first one.
No, it's not. Hold on. I messed that up. Let me see if I can do that again.
Yeah, it's probably spun out and probably clipped the rear wheel on a curb and snapped something back there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, here you go.
Because that rear wheel looks a little wonky.
Yeah. Yeah, that gray one
2024 model spared the crowds in favor of an inanimate target. Yeah, so I mean, it's
in that rear assembly snapped for sure.
Yeah, it looks like they slapped the curb, but I mean that's I really like those wheels too. Not gonna lie, you guys know I'm not a factory wheel guy, but those things look pretty good. So
one day you'll tell me that I have pretty good wheels on my Genesis, and the next day you're like, why the hell haven't you bought new wheels yet?
Dude, I'm just a wheel guy. Like, I don't know. They just immediately make everything look better.
Can you become a power guy?
Listen. All right. Goodbye.
You opened me up for it.
Yeah. Mike exits chat. That's funny.
Yeah. Yeah. Leave.
I mean, Nick's not wrong. You do have two sub 200 horsepower cars, 215 horsepower cars.
I know. I went from having the 420 horsepower V8 to having a shitty little four banger, and now everybody's outpowering me.
Mm-hmm.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
My time is coming soon, though.
Yeah,
I'm getting closer. All I need is
DC first.
All I need is for the interest rates to not be absolutely absurd to buy something. Then maybe
you might be a couple years from that, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. You're looking 24, end of 24, early 25.
So stupid.
Ideally.
Oh, trust me, I agree. Being in the industry, it is real difficult.
Yeah. It's not like you have any other issues going on with the automotive industry. That's fine.
Funny you bring that up.
What do you got over there, Nick?
Hold on.
All right, so
hold on to that.
Okay.
Hold on to that for now, because let's real quickly just do a quick beverage recap here.
Beverage recap.
Just jump right into that. So I'm gonna first talk about. You know what? Let's change it up a bit. What do you guys think about the pistachio ice cream? I can give my input on it first. It was.
I think it was
delicious. Yeah, it was delicious.
Good.
Yeah,
it was good.
You guys might correct me if I'm wrong, but it really reminds me of amaretto. Do you guys agree or disagree?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, right?
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
I didn't taste any amaretto. That's funny.
I mean, it reminds me of a good cannoli.
I mean, it literally tasted like ice cream to me. Like you don't know that this is. They call it gluten-free dessert beer, but this is not a beer, which I'm not mad about. It was delicious, but I don't know if you guys noticed, but it had like not spice. Spice is the wrong word, but it had like a little bit of
tart
tang
at the end.
Yeah, like a tang to it.
Yeah.
I thought it was really good. I mean, it's definitely sweet. It's thick. You guys saw me pour it. Like it's obviously you guys are all drinking it, but. Viewers, you saw me pour it into the glass. It's definitely thick. It coated the glass. Flavor was good. I mean, it's definitely a one and done. I wouldn't want to drink 4 of them, but
no.
Of any flavor, honestly, one of those is enough for one sitting. After that, it's just so thick. I mean,
that's
the flavor was spot on. That's what
flavor was good.
Amaretto and stuff. If anything, it reminds me of like a pistachio cannoli. But love my cannolis, but I mean, I thought it was pretty good. Again, the texture, the mouthfeel, all that. It's still weird because it's so thick, but the flavor was delicious.
Funny they were saying that.
Eric, what did you think of your other beer?
The raspberry swirl was pretty good. This is the other one that I had, as I mentioned, from Sebring, but the raspberry one is pretty delicious. But I drank both of those, so I just said, "Fuck it," and I just opened up a third beer, which is the strawberry swirl.
Another swirl.
Dude, man, I am like, fuck, they're super thick, so I'm like getting full over here. But I'm just gonna keep on trying. The strawberry one,
that's excessive.
Dinner,
dude. I'm
gonna teach you to drink some pilsners and lagers every once in a while.
No, I usually do, but I have some like in my fridge, but I need to get rid of these corporate ladder beers first. But anyways, actually between the strawberry swirl, the raspberry swirl, and the pistachio ice cream, I think my favorite one so far is the strawberry swirl, weirdly enough, because it's actually really good. It's like the raspberry is like there in your face, so I love strawberry. Strawberry is really good, so that's probably my favorite one.
This is random, Eric, but you should have a conversation with them next time you're there. Talk about all these fruit flavors. Can they do a dessert station guava and cream cheese?
Ooh, like a guava pastelitos?
They haven't.
You want to do that?
They haven't done the cheese, but they've done the guava,
something like that.
Pastelitos.
Eric, how do you say it? We're a bunch of white people.
How do
you call the pastries? The Cuban pastries.
It's pastelitos.
Pastelitos.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're saying.
I think I got it down.
Yeah, they're so good.
Yeah.
I'll have to mention that next time we go up. But anyways,
it sounds more authentic coming from you than it does from my white ass.
You know what's actually really funny? Because Carmelo's wife is always talking shit to me, saying that I'm not really Hispanic, apparently, because one, she doesn't hear me talking Spanish, but none of you guys speak Spanish, so why am I going to speak Spanish in front of you guys? And two, she was talking shit to me recently, and she's like, "You don't have WhatsApp?" And I'm like, "No. Like, why the fuck am I going to have WhatsApp? Like, if I'm going to communicate with anybody in my family, obviously my younger cousins, I have 2 or 3 cousins that I hang out with down in Miami. Instagram, Facebook, text message. I don't really communicate that much with a lot of my family members. It's just, you grow up, you kind of like separate them, like go each other's ways and things like that. But if I'm going to talk to somebody, I'm going to use Instagram, Facebook Messenger, or text message. Like WhatsApp, like I'm only going to communicate with my parents on WhatsApp, and I usually call them most of the time on my phone through just a regular phone app. So whatever. Carmelo's wife is funny, but I'm just like, what the fuck?
Throwing shade on you.
Yeah.
Throwing shade, talking trash. Well, it's funny because I talked to my second cousin. I talked to a few of my cousins literally on WhatsApp. So at first she's like, why is it? And then one of my best friends is Venezuelan. Him and his wife have been here. He was here in high school, went back, and then he's been back since 2012 or 13. But, all the time we talk, and most of the time him and I talk on WhatsApp. So, I don't know, she just felt like calling you out. And then for the longest time, she didn't believe that you spoke Spanish.
I don't know why.
Dude, Eric was interviewed at Sebring one year, wasn't he, where he spoke Spanish?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
That's right.
Video. It was our first year, and I came out on, I forgot which news station it was.
That's right.
Yeah,
like
but
Telemundo.
It was like Telemundo or something. Probably. Like it was like legit.
We gotta find
that. They have like
I found it once before.
That's funny.
I'm gonna try to hunt it down, and I'll try to clip it here. And if I'm not able to find it, in time before this episode uploads, I'm still gonna try to hunt it down and find it, and also upload it. But yeah, like I was actually interviewing, and it was like a quick the interview was a lot longer, but they only clipped like 5 or 10 minutes or like 5 or 10 seconds, and then they added me. So I was, and it's really weird because we were at Sebring. Obviously, we live in Lee County area, which is Southwest Florida. But I was in a news station, or I was like in a news report for Orlando. It's just weird.
Yeah, it's like it's a big event near Orlando, right?
Yeah.
And it was a hell of a lot of white people. And they're like, hey, this guy's kind of tan. Let's see if he speaks Spanish.
He looks like he speaks Spanish.
Well, actually, the reporter was a Hispanic chick too, which was kind of cool. But
she knew.
Yeah. Well, yeah, of course. We know. Hispanic people know. But anyways, Mike, go ahead and talk. Exactly.
Did she ask for your WhatsApp? Hold on. Did she ask for your WhatsApp?
No, she didn't.
Oh,
no, she didn't.
Aww.
WhatsApp probably wasn't even a thing back then. Actually, it may have been, but I still may have it.
It was a thing.
You didn't bring her back to the tent either, so must not have been that good of an interview.
Obviously not.
Anyway, I guess you weren't her lawn daddy that night either. Then
nope.
But,
I'm gonna leave
lawn
that
daddy was
to
really
you.
good.
I'm gonna leave you that title.
That's fair. I'll be the lawn daddy. This is really good. It's a pilsner. I like pilsners and lagers. Beer flavored beer. This one is actually a little hobby. I think that's why they call it neo traditional. Little bit of a story. Like I said earlier, I went up to Tampa Bay Brewing Company yesterday with a little company trip. There's about 20 of us. We rode a bus up. Really cool trip. I recommend their brewery in West Chase. They have a full restaurant. Food's awesome. The bar is really, really cool. They've got an awesome outdoor space as well. We got a tour of the facility, got to see their lab, got to show how they do some of the testing on their equipment to make sure that the beers are quality. Really cool. It was an awesome experience. One of my favorite parts of the whole thing was the owner is a big firearms advocate, and he has an X Products can cannon usually ready to go at all times. So we were firing off
pictures.
We were firing off old, outdated winter seasonal, which is their moose killer. We were firing those into their back lot, and it was awesome. I mean, that's the coolest brewery tour I've ever been on, where you get to shoot beer cans out of a can cannon. And then on the way back, tire blew on our bus, and we thought we were going to swerve off the road and die, but we didn't. So here I am. It was awkward. Like, we're driving along, and I started like hearing like that, and then all of a sudden it smelled like tire, and I'm like, oh, this isn't good. So I like poked the driver, and I was like, you got a tire about to explode. Like, you probably need to pull over. So he pulled over, got back on the bus, and was like, nah, it's fine. The tire's low, but we'll make it back. And I'm like, we're gonna a couple minutes later pop, and then you know what? He got back out, and one of the dualies on the back inside tire blew, and we just had to like limp it home going 60. It took forever, but what are you gonna do?
No.
So
you made it.
But we made it. All right. Well, that's Lawn Daddy. Carmelo.
All right.
How's your other stuff?
We got the mead was good. You know, it's funny because the initial scent is very strong and almost put off, but then once I started drinking it, it's reminiscent of like a peanut butter and jelly or a peanut butter and
nice.
banana sandwich.
That's a lot of the reboots are like kind of based like that.
Sounds
I
good.
was surprised. Like, most of the mead that I have is kind of straightforward. It's you have that that honey, esque like scent, and even the consistency, but it's a thinner mead, and I'm enjoying it.
What is the ABV on that one?
Oh, let me see.
Probably like 13, 14 and a half, isn't it?
13.9.
Yeah, usually. They actually make, I don't know if Garrett Geese makes them, but there's a couple companies that make like session meads that are like 6%. And to me, it's just, they're not as good. They're just kind of watered down.
And that's the problem.
Yeah, I've never seen them.
Yeah. At that point, drink a light beer. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, no, they do a lot of those reboots. And I think the base is like you were talking about earlier, that kind of peanuts, right? They do a lot of that. And then it's like with a different fruit of some sort. So it is like a PB and some kind of a jelly flavor. Man, you get a chance to go up there, Carmelo, and do a flight of all the different ones that they have available. Oh, it's awesome.
They have a coffee one that is my favorite. It's so good.
Well, they also do, and I was upset because the last time they did it, I couldn't get a bottle. They barrel age maple syrup.
Ooh,
really?
They were doing a spit. Dude, we walked in there the one time, it wasn't available yet, and you could just see like the barrels that were like bleeding, slowly bleeding, like maple syrup that was seeping through the wood. Like and you could smell it. It was awesome. Yeah, maybe someday. But
nice.
Yeah,
I'm sure that would be some really good maple
my recap
syrup.
simple: Scotch, yummy. Beer, we already talked about it, good. Other beer probably won't get opened yet. This will probably be the end. But smoky. If anybody likes Scotch, Lagavulin for the money, great option. Good smoky peatiness. I don't think it's too much. I've had some I think are too smoky. I think the Lagavulin is a pretty good middle ground, and for the quality, the money's pretty good. So
nice. So
yeah,
what were you gonna talk about before we did the beverage recap?
My current frustration in the automotive industry and a lot of people's, and soon to be a lot of consumers at the rate that it's going. So UAW strike, or United Auto Workers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Union nonsense. Apparently, these people have never heard of Jimmy Hoffa. But basically, what's going on is the UAW union has begun the strike, demanding, I want to say it's like a 40 or 45% raise over the next
5 years, 10 years,
4 years. No, it's short. It's like 4 years. Yeah,
45%.
It's something.
So
it might be 46. It's somewhere between
Yeah,
40 and 46.
This is
I would
absurd.
say. Right, and it's like, so you could have
Welcome
somebody who just clicks a button in every 15 seconds into something, making 90 G's a year.
Drill,
The other way, they'd be making like 110 grand a year, just like poking things.
Right.
And,
before benefits, before anything else.
And they only want to work 32 hours a week with a 46% pay increase.
Get out of here. Stop being lazy.
Yeah, so
get back to work.
So this is kind of what's going on that's preparing to affect the auto industry. Now the problem is, right, we've dealt with COVID. We've figured out ways to deal with this. We survive. You know who gets hurt? Every time it's the consumer. Every time. Because cost goes up, prices go up. Something like this happens. Now, the plus side to this is if they get past this quickly, there won't really be much of a production issue. One of the things in the industry that they just announced recently in an article was that I want to say we've surpassed 2 million vehicles produced in the United States, which is the first time that's happened in the last 2 or 3 years, thanks to COVID and other parts constraints. So the bad part of this is we're basically getting back to normal. We're getting back to where manufacturers are offering rebates. We're starting to see some special rates. We're seeing inventory, and you have options now. And then boom, UAW strike. And it's like, you got to be like, so we're finally getting back to a good time for consumers, minus some of the crazy standard rates. And these guys are going to basically fire off another issue. Now, they started with one plant per brand, and they purposely, thankfully, stayed away from the plants that produce the core vehicles, the Silverado, the F-150, and the Rams, for the initial strike. Because they understand that is the bread and butter that could crash any of the companies if those vehicles become an issue. Like they're trying to hurt, but not kill the companies. Now, just this week, they announced, I want to say, another 38 closures. Not factories, parts distribution centers. Now it's going to affect consumers because now parts and body shops and service centers will not be available for maybe months, rather than a couple weeks maybe waiting for repair. In a worst case scenario, you could be looking at 3 to 4 months, depending on how long this goes on. The good news for me and my family is the Ford negotiations are progressing. Ford is not included in the extended strike. They've only closed one of our factories, and everything else is running like normal because Ford's stepping up and they're actually negotiating. We've already come out with like a 20% pay increase over the next 2 years or something like that. I don't think they conceded on the hours yet, but I'm sure that's part of the discussion. So thankfully, my brand of vehicles is going the right direction. But there's going to be industry-wide problems when it's all said and done. I was also thankful enough that my owners saw the potential issues and made our parts department stock up the top 100 items for a 90-day supply. So at least us locally here in Fort Myers, Lee County area, our customers in the service department should be pretty good, as long as it doesn't last too long. But yeah, it's getting to the point now where, you know, it's a trickle-down problem, right? These people are not doing the job that they were hired to do because of the union nonsense and the things they agreed to. And
right, they signed the contract. It's on them.
Right, and it's not going to come down to the people below, trickle down through that funnel to those of us in the dealerships, parts distribution, service departments, all that. Now this has gotten big enough that consumers know about it, And now consumers are starting to lose their mind against the auto unions because they're like, you're screwing us. Like, you are us, and you're now screwing us because we're finally getting past the pandemic and all that. Things are getting normal again.
Cars are getting
markups,
delivered.
Discounts, like things are getting back to normal. And now this is happening. And now you have customers and consumers in the auto industry turning against these auto workers that are their, some of them are their blue collar brothers and sisters, and they're like, you're stupid. Why are you doing this? Some of them even come out and said, now you're getting greedy. Like, this is just ridiculous. Like, so again, there's a part of it that I probably don't understand because I'm not part of that, but I am a party that will be affected by it if it doesn't get killed quickly. But again, this guy leading the whole thing clearly has never heard of Jimmy Hoffa. So we'll see how that all pans out.
This is killing me. Not that I'm against unions, but I don't know if you guys follow the market at all, but a lot of companies are leaving China due to their labor issues. They basically have a ton of labor, but instead of them being trained on what phones and consumer products are needed now, the tech stuff, they don't, they're not educated to that level in school. Like, basically they're like, hey, that we need people that are able to solder, do whatever it is to make an iPhone, to make a Pixel, a Samsung. And they didn't follow up with that. So now companies are now moving to Mexico, India, and a few other countries, and not a mass exodus, but it's coming. And
and a lot of auto manufacturers already have plants in those countries too that they can just shift production to, and that's another complaint. People are like, you people have bitched about America not making enough stuff here, and then you pull this stunt. Exactly. So that's the first thing that happens. Like, Ford's gonna sit there and say, well, we already built stuff in Mexico. We'll just re-outfit a couple of those and build what you guys don't want to build down there and ship them in.
Dodge does.
The logistics.
So they build it in Canada and brings it down.
And the Bronco Sport are already down there. We have some things coming out of Canada and stuff like that. So that's what's going to happen. They're going to take this argument that they made years ago to bring more production to the U.S. They've now become hypocrites of the whole thing. They're screwing the whole function up, and they're now going to push manufacturing back out of the country again until they get their shit together and just buck up and do the job. They're going to get a new contract. They're going to get a raise. It's not going to be what they want, but they're going to get it. So
everybody gets some kind of raise. I'm not against that, but
that's a very fair wage and all that. Right. We're talking about a near half increase. Like, it's
half a point. I mean, it's absurd, and especially with seeing, like, kind of a nerd. I like watching like those production videos. So like, I watched one when I bought the Frontier. There's a assembly plant in Mississippi. It's an American-made truck. The majority of the parts are here. I think it's like 12% of product is imported of the entire vehicle. So, like, it's not a Ford, but realistically, Ford for a while was based out of Europe during the recession. All their funds were getting sent there, so Ford wasn't the all-American company, and Chevy followed suit as well. And, FCA, Stellantis isn't based in the U.S.,
not at least at this point.
So it's they're just hiding behind this. Oh, we're an American company, trying to screw over the consumer. And in my personal opinion, we need to bring back manufacturing to the States. And this is a reason why we don't have it. I mean, you said it right. They one year they want, let's bring it back, and then years later they're like, let's make it absurd because they're making too much money.
Right.
These companies have to make money.
The other point is, like, these people they're asking for more money. And you guys probably don't see it as much as I do, because I see this pop up in different, like, private dealership employee groups on Facebook and stuff like that. The quality control can be horrendous. I've seen Jeep Grand Wagoneers come in with mismatched interiors. There's an article already. I don't know. I can't remember if I mentioned it last week. There's a Mustang S650 GT that rolled out with a dark horse seat in the passenger side with a totally different color, both black, but this one had the micro suede plus leather. The word Recaro was in bright ass like grabber blue, and somebody didn't catch this when the standard seat was all leather with a white Recaro emblem. So whether it was an automation mistake or a human mistake, but the way I've seen some of these cars with mismatched colored interiors and stuff like that very blatant. Like, one of them was like an all black Grand Wagoneer, and an entire door panel or two was like beige.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, come on. I mean, we're not talking about like dark blue and a black. We're talking about completely different spectrums of color. So they want these raises, but the quality control coming out of these plants is atrocious sometimes, and we're having to fix them at dealerships. Damage is coming out. I mean, it's just yeah.
Well,
so,
I mean, you guys are on the end. There's no, they're not being held accountable because it gets to you guys and they're like, oh, well, we sent it. And I have a friend that works at a local Dodge dealership, and they were saying they had, I think it was like 95 to 110, $115,000 Grand Wagoneers coming with mismatched body panels, and then the customers are mad.
Jeep was one of the worst. Stellantis was one of the worst quality controls.
And I mean, these people waited months for the car, supply shortages, or they got a car missing certain features because of the microchip shortage. Now you're sitting here with two different things, and the manufacturer's like, oh, our bad.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's not.
So,
it's no offense, but a dealer tech isn't going to put the door panel on the same way as a production. In production, there's a line. It's all done a specific way.
Right. Well, we all know too, when you put that panel on, easy peasy. When you take it off, the odds of snapping a clip or something like that on a part you reuse is pretty high, even with proper panel pulling tools. So there's a chance you're going to have to put this thing back on now with a clip or two broken that needs to go back onto the car.
And it's not going to sit right.
Yeah, so it's a problem.
Yeah,
and they want a 46% increase in pay.
Yeah, I was actually just going to bring up that quality control thing before Carmela brought it up, because we actually met somebody at Sebring that worked for a Japanese manufacturer.
Nissan.
I'm not going to say what it, I wasn't going to say what it is, but yeah, but Scott Cole, cool dude. He's at this point, he's a good buddy of ours. We ran into him at Sebring, and he hung out with us and kind of became, friends with him ever since. But when we met him that one year, he was saying that there was a lot of cars that were built in Mexico, specifically cars with CVT transmissions that had quality control issues because there was sand inside of the transmissions that was mixing with the oil, and it was damaging pretty much like the transmissions were pretty much detonating themselves. So
I was actually sure those CVT Nissan transmissions have been known to be garbage anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. But I was going to mention that right before Carmela did. But yeah, I can imagine the quality control thing. And obviously, Nick, you kind of said the whole mixed-matched body panels and interior pieces obviously has been an ongoing issue. But, excuse me. But yeah, like that was exactly the point that I was going to make.
Well, here's a good one, because you talk about Mexico, right? Like, obviously, Ford also builds a couple things in Mexico. Maverick and I think Bronco Sport and maybe something else. I don't pay attention to where they come from unless I'm tracking one. But this is fun, right? F-150s made in America. We had some F-150s. We didn't personally get them, but speaking of quality control issues, they came in with the wrong name badges into dealerships. The name badge said Lobo, which was the Mexican paying for it. So American workers in an American factory were tagging American F-150s with Mexican nameplates. So you want to talk about quality control, and they want more money, and that's the shit that's going on. So yeah, the Ford Lobo is an F-150 in Mexico, basically. And that's what they were tagging some of these things. And not always all. One side said F-150, the other fender said Lobo. Like, come on.
Oh my God.
Like,
that's ridiculous.
Come on. So that's, yeah. And they think they're worth 46% more and 8 hours less a week.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, it must
maybe
be nice.
Maybe
I was going to say, we all want to work 8 hours less a week and make 50% more money. That's just what everyone in the country wants. But come on, like, if you're not doing your job to begin with, then get the hell out of here.
And our good old American president said he wants to pick it with the UAW in the last day or so.
Well, what's funny is honestly, we've had driver strikes in the industry, not strikes necessarily, but we've had mass exodus a day, and then everyone's just like, we need more money. We're not going to keep doing this unless you pay us more. And what do they end up doing? They end up paying more money. So I guarantee these guys are going to get paid more. It sucks.
I mean, the consumer's going to get screwed, and
of course, the consumer's going to get screwed. But it's like, and also it's really making me wonder, like, what is, once again, we're going to go down a rabbit hole here, but like, we all want to make more money, but like,
I just found a solution for all of the Central and South American refugees. Blow up the unions and put them into factories and actually pay them.
Yep. Mm-hmm. There you go. Get to work.
Watch how quickly all those people want their jobs back.
Mm-hmm.
They took our jobs.
And watch how many more cars are built too.
And the fewer mistakes, the fewer errors. It's. I mean, we could go on for this
You find
forever,
somebody
but
grateful for the opportunity and for the money.
That's just it.
And boom, all of a sudden it's done.
These people, the society thinks,
well, and some of the people making the demands are people that are retired that think they're owed stuff when they lost things back in the recession that are going to get paid out as well, and they're retired. Yeah, it goes deeper. It's a problem.
That's so dumb.
So they're playing on hopes and dreams because they're not satisfied with what they retired with. That's unfortunately that's a them issue. They should have invested better, diversified. That's on them. If they're not happy with it, hey, sorry. Like you built cars your whole life. Like great.
This country's learned that recessions come and go. Prepare for such things. If you didn't, and that affected you,
shame on you.
It's kind of one of those. It happens. We know this.
No.
History repeats itself.
Only from people that don't learn from it.
It's going to come.
Well, yeah, that's just it. They're destined to repeat it. But that's it. I won't rant on that anymore, and I try to keep profanity out of it. But my feelings are quite strong on that particular topic.
I can see that.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm part of the trickle down effect, man. It's
we all are, even the consumers. I mean, cars have gone up like 30-40% over the past 5 years. Now they're going to go up another 15%, 20% to for this. Like, no,
of course.
I like Ford, but
this Dodge, is part of a bigger. This is part of a bigger problem.
I wouldn't buy it
as well. Like there's other industries that are doing strikes right now as well. I mean, it's not just this. There's other stuff happening as well, and it's like everyone is just up and demanding more money.
We have some livable wage issues in this country for
sure. 100%.
But these UAW people are already doing pretty well.
They're making $32 an hour average. I just pulled up an AP article. Like their average.
And if you work 40 hours, that's what, 65, 68 grand a year?
Right. Not counting benefits, opportunity to
any overtime, stuff like that.
Right. Oh no, I'm sorry. It's 60. The Detroit 3 workers now receive 60 an hour. So I mean, think about that. That's an absurd amount of money. And for what is just like a low skilled job.
Yeah.
From the manufacturing that I've seen and the few tours I've taken, it's not like, you're part of a race team where you're custom fabbing parts like we were talking about.
It's not
engine
bespoke.
swaps.
You're not building things one-offs.
You're just, robots are putting things together and you're bolting them in or you're ensuring fitment.
And I think something I read basically said that if their demands were simply met, they'd work 32 hours a week and average like $90,000 or so a year for their average worker. Like,
that's ridiculous.
And if this is assembly line people, I mean, this is, you graduate or you don't even graduate, you get a GED and you apply.
Yeah, like some of these people are literally, they move parts around a warehouse. Some of these people, that's what they do.
Right.
They move parts around a warehouse for shipping.
It's crazy.
And they think that, and instead of being thankful for the amazing job they have with the limited, education or skill or, certifications. It's not that they went out to get certified in this,
right. And listen, I'm not saying that it's not hard manual labor.
Oh no,
it is. But you're not a trained electrician or an HVAC tech.
Right.
These guys deserve to make 6 figures a year. They went to school for this and have honed a craft. You move a box from this shelf to this shelf to this truck. But that's all right. No.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that note.
Yeah.
I'll stop. I'm egging you on unintentionally. That's not my goal, but we feel too much.
We should call that segment before I
forget these
go
people
off the rails.
Yes.
And with that one, that's all the time that we have for today. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. We do appreciate all of our listeners and subscribers, especially since this is going to be our 10th uploaded episode. So it's a huge milestone for us. Honestly, who would have thought that we actually would have made it to 10 episodes, right? But
should have been 11.
I should have been 11. Yes, that's my fault. But aside from that,
we have really difficulties.
Really?
I mean, you know what? I accept that screw up.
Stuff happens.
I'm going to acknowledge it every once in a while. That's my fault. But anyways, remember to savor your brews. It's all right. Remember to savor your brews. Don't forget to hit the road responsibly. Also, don't forget to hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe. Please share this, all of our content. We definitely like to grow the channel. and we'll definitely provide you guys more additional content here. Cheers to booze and cars, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Cheers.